Special Needs Support Center for families with differently abled or special children. She, she is supported in her quest for a morally upright life with her husband, Bala Chandranji, and her children, daughter who is lawyer and son who is an artist. I think Vimalji is an architect of life and she is also a good orator. Now I request Vimalji, please enrich us by her discourse. Vimalji.
Thank you, Dr. Sushma ji. You can hear me and you can see the PPT?
Yes, yes. I can see the PPT and your voice is very clear.
Okay. So I welcome you all to this book study of Aryal Sanat's book called The Inner Life of Krishnamurti, Private Passion, Perennial Wisdom. Now, it was published in 1930, whose picture you see here. You will see that he has also written another book which has been published in 2023. So now, I mean, he has been a theosophist for many years. He's lectured in various theosophical meetings in the US. He's a scholar and he's also in Miami. So now this book is his research, 30 years research he's done between of Krishnamurti, of theosophy. So it's a kind of a combination of theosophical studies and also Krishnamurti's teachings. And it's very comprehensive, very detailed. And what I have done is that the book itself is divided into three parts. Now, part one deals with the perennial philosophy and its tenets as relating to Krishnamurti's life and work. Part 2 deals with the reality of Maitreya and the masters in K's daily life. And part 3 is K's spiritual experiences and how they affect the future of humanity. So I will be taking up part 1 today, and then part 2 will be next Sunday, and the third part will be the Sunday after that. So now what I'd like to start with is that there is some aspects of Krishnamurti which is not very widely studied. People study philosophically what he's teaching, they go through his biographies, but they don't look at his life theosophically. So that is the main aim of this book, to have an open-minded look at the theosophic aspects of K's life. Now, K publicly always spoke against belief systems based on occult teachings. Yet privately, from the start of his life in the Theosophical Society till his last death, there was always some esoteric happenings, occult happenings in his life. So we will be looking at all that during the course of the next 3 weeks. Part 1 starts with its title Fountainhead, and it is a kind of an introduction to the perennial philosophy for people who are unfamiliar with theosophy. Most people are more familiar, people who pick up this book, The Inner Life of people who know Krishnamurti's teachings. Such people may not know theosophy. So for their benefit, the book starts with a sort of background of Theosophical Society. And here it starts with this passage that in 1922, Krishnamurti and his brother Nitya went for the very first time to Ojai Valley in California, which is where the process, what Krishnamurti calls the occult happenings, the process happened to him at the first time. And at this time, K saw Lord Maitreya, Gautama Buddha, and some other masters too. But many people have lots of opinions on what K saw. We will study all that as we go along. Now, for the background of people who don't know anything about theosophy, the book starts with explaining what the Great White Brotherhood is. Of course, we all are very familiar with it, and we don't need to go into the details of what he's written there. But I wanted to bring one Colonel Olcott has kept a written record of it from 1874 to 1907 in his old diary leaves letters. So old diary leaves books. So that's one thing. Second is every time he also took affidavits or written the experiences of witnesses with signature. So this record has been there for that long period, and it's very convincing for non-theosophists to accept that with the background of Colonel Olcott, with his erudite and his respected background, that he has written it. It becomes more convincing that yes, there was such things happening at that time. Second thing to notice, which this book brings across, is that after Annie Besant's death in 1933 and C.W. Leadbeater's death the year after in 1934, we just things in mind. Now, some of case to consider that the process, this occult process, is a mystery which people should not look into, because they fear that acknowledging K's rich esoteric life would create a religion around him. People would make him into a demigod, and that is something which K himself did not want at all. So, in view of that, they did not want to even go into those esoteric happenings in K's life, which, according to this writer, says it's not, we may not give that much importance. From our own readings of like books like Masters on the Path and all, we know that they always live in isolated places near nature. And if you look at K's life too, he preferred living alone, living near nature, communing with nature. And the masters too were always involved in meditations of understanding what is, as in quote unquote, what against having a teacher. So you can see that from this quotation of his. Can you dispel the darkness of another? Knowing that he's unhappy, confused, has not enough brain matter, has not enough love or sorrow, can you dispel that? Or has he to work tremendously on himself? You may point out, you may say, look, go through that door. But he has to do the work entirely from beginning to end. You are the guru and you point out to the door. You have finished your job. Your function as a guru is then finished. You do not become important. I do not put garlands around your head. I have to do all the work. You have not dispelled the darkness or ignorance. You have rather pointed out to me that you are the door through which you have to go yourself. You yourself have to go. Now, secret teachers helped all saints in the past. Always there were some other teachers who helped these saints. And even K was helped by masters. In his own words, just 10 days before his death, he has said to witnesses, and this is there in some of his biographies, for 70 years, that super energy, know that immense energy, immense intelligence has been using this body. Now, here the book goes into the perennial philosophy. As we all know that there has the basis of everything started, K's life started with the movement that Blavatsky started, which is where once again there was this revival, a renaissance of perennial philosophy, where the names that Blavatsky gave was occult philosophy, hermetic teachings, Gupta mean? What does perennial philosophy mean? It's a very beautifully defined thing in this book, and I think it's enriching for us also, who are students of perennial philosophy, to read this definition of perennial philosophy. A fundamental perennial teaching is that there is a state of awareness, of insight, and compassion. Christians refer to the state of awareness by the name Christ. Buddhists may call it Avalokiteshvara, while people in other religions and cultures give it yet another other names. The perennial philosophy gives importance to a daily communion with this insight compassion. Blavatsky was the first person in history to make widely known to the public the existence of the perennial philosophy and to propagate some of its main teachings. According to her, a new era in which what used to be hidden will become widely available. So, all over the world, this nature of the human condition and its access to the divine is present in all religions. So, this is a very interesting way of defining perennial philosophy as trying to reach that state of insight and compassion. Now, Theosophy and Blavatsky, they were the first persons to actually bring across all these aspects of the physical human body, the energy field around the physical human body, more widely known, and the words were more scientific. The idea that there is a form of subtle energy flowing through all living organisms was gaining currency. The energy system in the body, known as Kundalini and chakras, were being described as subtle ultra subatomic energy matter. Though this was already known in the Tantra and Tibetan traditions, it was theosophy which gave it a language. Even Chinese healing systems also dealt with meridians, which are part of this subtle body, the subtle energy. But again, it was a scientific language developed by C.W. Leadbeater, that words like chakras and kundalini have become internationally common. So here the book goes into a little background of CWL did continuous occult research in his life from 1895 till his death in 1934. Though with Annie Besant, he collaborated for the book Occult Chemistry, and once it was published in 1913, Annie Besant stopped her clairvoyance practice, but CWL continued. And in that book, there have been many revelations which have been proved by science today. One of them is this subatomic item called quarks, QUARKS, which today science has proved that such a thing does exist, which was pointed out first by Annie Besant and CWL. Now, CWL was a pioneer in describing the chakras and kundalini. We all know that, we've seen it in his books, very scientific, and before him nobody else had done that. CWL, now here I'm just going into that subtle matter description because I find this very clear, as I have read a lot of this about this, but the clarity with which CWL writes it, this is his writings. CWL very clearly describes the subtle bodies. For example, the etheric body is a violet gray mist, very slightly beyond and penetrating the body, in which our vitality flows, which has chakras on its surface. The etheric body is a connector between the astral or emotional, also mental body and causal body, to the physical body. It is the etheric body is a connection between the emotional body and the physical body. Without the etheric body, our physical brain will not get connected to our emotional body, which is beyond the physical body, and the mind, which is even further beyond the emotional body. So this etheric body is a connector between us and all the other more subtle bodies. So the CWL also consistently described emotions and thoughts as composed of ultra subatomic particles of energy matter. This is just a general background of the things that were going around. For this again is, again, as I said, this is a book not just more meant for Krishnamurti fans, it's also for people who have not read any of this theosophical matter, which we are very familiar with. Now, thanks to CWL's research and writings, many books on Kundalini have come, and one such book is mentioned in the book written by John White. It's titled Kundalini, Evolution and Enlightenment, where Kundalini is described as a personal aspect of the universal energy called prana. Kundalini, often referred to as the serpent power because it is symbolized by a coiled snake, can be concentrated and channeled through the spine into the brain, a process likewise not identified by modern science. The systematized process for accomplishing this upward flow of energy is known as Kundalini Yoga. So, as we're going to study this book, we are going to see this aspect of the Kundalini rising in Krishnaji, but also there were other things also happening in his body. So, we will be going into all that possibly in part 2, but this is just the background of all that. Now, Shivananda Companion to Yoga includes a brief discussion of the Kundalini from the lowest or Muladhara chakra to the base at the base of the spine to the highest or Sahasrara chakra at the crown of the head. As Kundalini passes through each of the various chakras, different planes of consciousness are experienced. When it reaches the Sahasrara chakra, the man attains samadhi. Though still operating on the material level, man reaches a level of existence beyond time, space, and causation. Now, here's something very interesting which CWL has said about the Kundalini. Again, it is the rise of Kundalini up Krishnaji's spine and its active, painful action in his head that led center stage, that had held center stage at in his psychophysiological aspects of the process. Now, CWL says Kundalini energy comes from the center of the earth, where there is a vast globe of such tremendous force that we cannot approach it. It's not like the vitality which comes from the sun through light and air. Kundalini is much more material. Though arousing it is though arousing it is dangerous, yet on a daily basis, the same energy flows in our nerves as nerve fluids. It enters the body at the Muladhara chakra. Like other forces, Kundalini itself is invisible, but in the human body, it clothes itself in a concentric spheres of astral and etheric matter, one within another, like the balls in a Chinese puzzle. These appear to be 7 such concentric spheres resting within the root chakra, in and around the last real cell or hollow of the spine close to the coccyx. But only in the outermost of these spheres is the force active. It's only when the man attempts to arouse the energy latent in those inner layers that the dangerous phenomena of the fire begins to show themselves. The harmless fire of the outer skin of the ball flows up the spinal column using the 3 lines of Sushumna, Ida, and Pingala simultaneously. So this is just a background of CWL and what he has talked about the Kundalini. So now let's go back to Krishnamurti. And the book then delves into the fact that CWL discovered Krishnamurti in 1909 in the Adyar beach. And at that time, when he saw him, he said, "This is a child with no aura, no hint of selfishness in his aura." And that he also predicted that one day he will be a great speaker, even better than Annie Besant. He was convinced that the Buddha Maitreya would overshadow Krishna. In fact, it was the masters who pushed CWL and Annie Besant to train Krishnamurti. And both of them, CWL and Annie Besant, spent more energy on promoting the coming of the world teacher than anything else they undertook in their lives. So this is the background of how much importance was given to everything was around Krishnamurti. It was almost like the society was for Krishnamurti at that time. So now we go on to chapter 3. Chapter 2 was about the Kundalini. Chapter 1 was about the perennial philosophy background. Now chapter 3 is the mutation which happened in Krishnamurti. Now Krishnamurti in 1911, we know that at the feet of the master, before that the first initiation had already taken place. But the first initiation took place with the master KH in the astral plane when Krishnamurti was taken with CWL. The second initiation
Vimalji, we are not able to hear you.
freedom by Annie Besant and CWL to develop his mind in any way he wanted. He was more interested in mechanical things like cameras, cars, motorcycles, and watches. And he loved to play games like volleyball and golf. He even won tournaments in golf. He was good at that. So it was Annie Besant's belief that she should not push any belief system of theosophy inside K. For her, theosophy was not so much a belief system as a path of transformation. So K's life of K's life was one of luxury, and then a transformation started taking place. And let's look at what happened. The first man While at Australia, a message for Krishnaji was brought through by CWL from KH, from Master Kuthumi. And this is the message of KH. He says, of you too, we have the highest hopes. Steady and widen yourself and strive more and more to bring the mind and brain into subservience to the true distorted almost beyond recognition. Seek for that tiniest gleam of light amid the Stygian darkness of each ignorant mind. For by recognizing and fostering it, you may help a baby brother. This message had a profound effect on K, and he started to meditate immediately after that. His meditation was just for half an hour for 2 weeks, 15 days. And on the 17th of August, 1922, the process began when he was meditating. And he was in immense pain. For several days, he had been in immense pain, his neck, his head. There was lot of discomfiture. He could not sleep, nothing. So there were many people over there, Nityananda, his brother, Rosalind, and Dr. Warrington. Dr. Warrington suggested that you go and meditate under the pepper tree. So that's what he did. He went and meditated under the pepper tree. And that's when he saw all of these that we just discussed, Lord Maitreya, Lord Buddha. And whatever was going on inside him, he had no control of it. It was like some kind of a deep uh, operation that was taking place. And whenever such a thing happened to him, he had, it was like some kind of grace, like he had a sense of something very profound, very beautiful that is coming to him. Now, why was K chosen? In fact, there were other people around that time. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, because the current has gone here. So why was K chosen? K was chosen mainly because of two that he had. One is that he had a vacancy of mind. It's a kind of emptiness of mind, like a mind without anger, without any sort of fixed notions. It was an open, free, and vacant mind, like what in Zen Buddhism is called shunyata. That is number one quality. The second quality he had is he had a predisposition to be of service in the work of the perennial teachers. He had a great sense of loyalty to them. Put simply, he an inner goodness, an inner desire to do the right thing at the deepest level, because he knew that all of this was true. All the entire Theosophical Society, his Annie Besant, who was his adopted mother, the enormous service done by all of those people. He was aware of everything, and so he was aware of what is the work, what is his dharma over here. He knew that. So that two things, that awareness of his dharma and his quality of his mind were the reason why he was chosen to for this kind of a esoteric happening that was taking place inside his brain. Now the process. Let's look at what the was all about. Now, K has described the process like this. He said in many ways, K said in many ways, the purification of the brain is necessary. He said that the brain was full of conditioning, though the mind was empty. See, here is a theosophic teaching coming in through K, where he's talking about the brain being full of conditioning, but the mind itself being empty. Only when the brain is cleansed itself of its conditioning, greed, envy, ambition, then only it can comprehend that which is complete. Love is that completeness. The process was a physical phenomenon, not to be confused with the state of consciousness that Krishnamurti variously refers to in the notebooks as the benediction, the otherness, immensity. K speaks of a painful physical aspect of the process in which Kundalini burnt through the synapses and various centers of his brain. K suggested towards the later part of his life that a mutation of the brain cells themselves is necessary for the change from self-centered to holistic thinking. But according to K, before such a physical mutation can occur, we must die to the known. That is, all identification of ourselves to old patterns have to go. In a way, what dying to the known means, we have to forget our personality. We have to die to our personality. Towards the end of this book, Kay has suggested that just like how easy it is to travel to America today, though the first time when Christopher Columbus must have traveled to America from Europe, he must have had an arduous time. Similarly, self transformation will be easier for all, though Kay himself went through a very tough, immensely painful process for many years. So he was like a trigger, a sort of a chemical trigger. He had transformed from one kind of person to completely different, and he says that because of my transformation, this will trigger the transformation of others. What Kay says is our lives will remain full of fear, confusion, and violence as long as we are unwilling to die completely to these recursive patterns in the brain. Kay's exploration suggests that it is those recursive patterns in the brain that keep us from being sensitive to ourselves, to one another, and that to that which is. Now, at this point, when I'm talking about dying to the unknown, to the known, and things like that, you may think that, okay, this is very different from theosophy. Aryal Sanat has written for the Theosophist. He has talked about how HPP and the secret doctrine is also only about this transformation. In the very second page, the first footnote that you'll find is about the fact that the stanzas of dhyan are the basis of the secret doctrine, and the word dhyan is comes
You're not
another
audible.
word. Huh?
You're not audible. No.
1 minute. Am I audible now?
No, now you're.
Okay, because current is going here, so so what is there is that so this business of transformation is a different viewpoint of theosophy, which I will come to later. Of the distorting bias that is inherent in the conditioning of the, and that through insight arising in proper undirected attention without a center, it can change the cells of the brain and remove destructive conditioning. This is the mutation of the brain cells that he was talking about. The first initiative get an insight. That insight changes the nature of the cells of your brain. So that is what he's saying. So the insight is necessary before the change of the cells of the brain will take place. Evolution, and then this author talks about evolution. We always thought evolution is a gradual process, but he says that now more and more people are saying that evolution is no longer a gradual process. It seems to happen in sudden spurts at the end or beginning of a cycle. Enlightenment appears to be a physical process in the brain too, wherein all the parts of the brain, that is the neocortex, the thalamus or the emotional part, and the medulla oblongata or the instinctive part, work as one whole. New nerve consciousness connections are made. That is, there is a sort of, it's not that here we're talking about a kind of evolution in the brain itself. That evolution appears to make quantum jumps. It's not a very gradual thing. That's what the book is saying. So let's go ahead. Annie Besant too talks about this perennial mutation. In the study in consciousness, Annie Besant says, enlarging of the waking consciousness is accompanied with development in the atoms of the brain, as well as with the development of certain organs in the brain. and of the connection between cells. So, perennial philosophy also has been suggesting that transformation of the brain cells is necessary for evolution. Happens to the whole of humanity. Theosophy suggested that by following the esoteric traditions, such a change is possible. Case such a mutation can take place, that is, before a new humanity can be created, there must be psychological dying to the known. So, should be clear by now is that we are talking about self transformation, whether it is K talking, whether it's Annie Besant, whether it is HPB through secret doctrine. Everyone is talking about self transformation. Only the how to do it, each person has seems to do it in different ways, or maybe they're all saying the same thing. We need to know what it is. So here let's go into this thing called dying to the known. Dying to the known was at the heart of HPB and her teachers. But this crucial teaching of self transformation was sidelined into entering the path by following a precisely outlined set of rules. This sort of practice has great appeal to the mind, with its penchant for organizing everything in logical categories. But for this very reason, it belongs to the realm of the conditioned mind, which by nature is not transformative. But K's method was based on insight, which was transformative of the brain processes. So if you try and understand this, what they're saying is something very interesting. That yes, I mean we who are students of theosophy read everything. So when we're reading everything, we read about all these rules and things like that. But do these rules help us to change who we are? Are we able to change who we are? We still seem to remain same. We're able to change one part of it, but not all of it. That entire transformation is not happening. So this is what K has been talking about. Both K and the perennial teachers tell us that we so long as we feel, think, and behave the same way, are characterized by recursive or closed loops that cannot be a new humanity or a new age. So if we have whatever one type of thinking we have, we will have the same kind of results. Unless we change this whole thing, we are not going to change much. From K's journal, that is I think this is the notebook of K, which he maintained for almost 1 year, I think. In 1961, he wrote a notebook in which every single day, except for 14 days, for one whole year, he wrote his experiences. And all his experiences, almost every single day, he had an experience of that benign immensity or whatever that consciousness was, he felt it. Very gentle. Sometimes it say it is beautiful. Sometimes it says something else. It's so many descriptions he gives of that. It's enormously enchanting to take that book and sit in some beautiful scenery and read that book. So from that book, he says, destruction is essential, not of buildings and things, but of all the psychological devices and God's beliefs, dependence on priests, experiences, knowledge, and so on. Without destroying all these, there cannot be creation. It's only in freedom that creation comes into being. Another cannot destroy these defenses for you. You have to negate those through your own self knowing awareness. For total revolution, the brain must forsake all its inward secret mechanisms of authority, envy, fear, and so on. This is enormously interesting that all this is secretively happening. Even though we may say, but things happen underground. So here's another beautiful thing from Krishnamurti's notebook, which is quoted in this book. The strength and beauty of a tender leaf is its vulnerability to destruction. Like a blade of grass that comes up through the pavement, it has the power that can withstand casual death. It has the power that can withstand casual death. Now, the initiation of K, as we already studied, has happened in 1922. all he saw at that time, for about 30 minutes every morning. I could, to my astonishment, considerable ease. And within a few days, I began to see clearly where I failed and where I was failing. Immediately, I set about consciously to annihilate the wrong accumulations of the past years. With the same deliberation, I set about to and find out ways and means to achieve aim. First, I realized I had to harmonize all my bodies with the Buddhic plane, the level of awareness immediately beyond the conceptual mind. And to bring about this happy combination, to find out what my ego wanted on the Buddhic plane. To harmonize the various bodies, I had to keep them vibrating at the same level as the Buddhic. And to do this, I had to find out what was the vital interest of the Buddhic. With ease, which rather astonished me, I found the main interest on that high plane was to serve the Lord Maitreya and the masters. With that idea clear in my physical mind, I had to and all the other bodies to act and think the same as on the noble and spiritual plane. During that means he was not allowing anything else, some lower level sense, feelings, thoughts, things to come into it. He was trying to control all of it to stay in that higher level. During that period of less than 3 weeks, I concentrated to keep in mind the actual image of Lord Maitreya throughout the entire day. I found no difficulty in doing this. I found that I was getting calmer and more serene. My whole outlook on life was changed. So here, I mean, once more, this was just the experience that Kay had. And here I will end part one, because part two will go more into what exactly was taking place inside Kay, all those physical transformations of his brain, the chakras of his brain was being worked on. We'll also try and see what is this consciousness that we are talking about, the Maitreya consciousness which Kay was experiencing. We'll also go a lot into how Kay's thoughts were, what kind of thoughts he was telling, and also the background of various other biographies where lots of interesting information has been given about Kay. All this will come in the next Sunday and the Sunday after that. So this is just the beginning, and I'm going to stop sharing. And now we'll open up for comments, questions, and what were I today? I would just request nobody, please don't say it was good lecture or great lecture, anything, because when you're doing that, you are only encouraging my lower self, not helping me. So I would request you to let your intuitive thinking come up. And what there's a lot, obviously, such a book, and I have maybe I have said too much. So I want you to just share your intuitive feelings today. That's how I would request others. Thank you.
No, Vimalji, when we get in-depth knowledge from someone, we are supposed to pay our gratitude and we are supposed to appreciate because it is said by HPB, when we don't pay our gratitude to someone for his contribution, we are doing pap. That's why I will say that thank you, Vimalji, for your in-depth and enlightening presentation on the subject. You have discussed first part of the book, which is related to Parangi philosophy, is Kundalini Jagaran, esoteric happening, occultism, quantum jump, and sudden transformation. And also you talked about psychological dying from the known. So just I want to share something. After that, I will ask members present here to input, or they can ask questions from you. I think it is true that sometimes the outer life is the reflection of inner, but sometimes there seems a contradiction between the outer and inner lives. I think because of our limitations and level of consciousness, we are unable to understand the hidden meaning of the statements of the great soul. So one should try to go deeper and deeper, profoundly, so that the truth may reveal itself. So we should ponder over it because we have thrown light on the difficult subject. So now platform is open for the members. They can ask question from Vimalji and they can share their views.
Rajanji, please say something. Nice to see you here.
Thanks. Is the book available?
Yes, yes, ma'am. I will send it in the group. In your group, I will put it. Online is available.
Vimalji, I also want this book online.
Sorry?
I also want to this book.
I'll send it to you. I have put it in the our groups. Indian Theosophy family group also I put it. I already put it, but I'll send it to you. So this man has done 30 years of research. It's a very lot of biographies he has gone through to collect lots of information, which is a connection between Theosophical Society and Krishnamurti, how they are connected. Actually, if you, I joined the society in 2010 when Radhaji was there. And Radhaji had a very similar way of giving lectures with no notes, directly speech, just like how Timboy Ji also does. No notes, nothing, direct speech, and lot of her way of. It was never so much about the masters or the all the theosophic knowledge part. It was very similar to Krishnamurti's way of talking, the way Radhaji was talking. And if you look at her father's work, her father's work was regeneration was the theme of his. In most of his books are about regeneration. Again, that is also the same thing, transformation. So this focus on transformation has been there in theosophy, and now you have so much like you have Vic Houchen who talks about the self transformation. So this is also he has these self transformation seminars. I have attended one school of wisdom. So in that he says 4 things are required. I'll read it to you. There are 4 view of our personal map of reality. Second is clarification of our values. Third is self mastery, and the fourth is transcendence. But he says the fourth, you cannot make it happen. It has to happen by itself. The first 3 you can make it. So very interesting. So I said, okay, review of our personal, this one, clarification of our values. So I started writing down what are my values, like what I think, okay, for me, I have to be kind to people, respectful to old people, all that, some set of values I have. I wrote it down. So it's very interesting. Then I realized that if I write it down, it's becoming solid, but I have to move out of that. I cannot concretize something like this and say, then it does something horrible to me. It's very interesting. This whole business of, first, it's like you're building yourself with this scaffolding. Okay, what you are building, it's got a scaffolding. Now you build a little higher, the lower scaffolding you don't need, so it goes away. Now the structure has come up. When you look down, there shouldn't be a structure. It's just you at that higher level without a structure. So this seems to me to be what this whole idea of transformation, mutation, or whatever this whole business is all about. That's how I'm.
Vimalji, every single day, I pay gratitude to every person in the night. And quantum jump takes place when we are prepared for that. It is a long-term preparation. It doesn't happen automatically we are
Yes.
supposed to be prepared. We are preparing for the last lives, and then it takes place. And we say that it takes place uh, suddenly. No, it doesn't take place suddenly. It is a long-term preparation. Only then a quantum jump happens. I think so. This is my.
I think you're right. I think you're right. It is it is some kind of a something like you are given diksha, they call it, no? That word, that you are given that from somewhere suddenly. So even then, now see,
Yes,
a lot of the young theosophists tend to think that theosophy is all about these teachings of seven bodies, as chains, rounds, and all that. But really, that is not what theosophy or theosophical society is trying to do. Theosophical society is definitely trying to change you as a human being. The study and all that is for our mind to develop, and it's also that study, meditation, services, threefold. We occupy ourselves with study, but how useful it is for
you
knowledge
are not
of yourself.
audible. We are supposed to develop our patrata, eligibility, each and every day. Yes, you in the beginning you have said he, uh, we are supposed to be aware all the time. Only then we can develop patrata.
What's that word? Patrika.
Patrata.
Patrika.
Eligibility.
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 Okay. In the next one, actually, I will be talking about why Krishnamurti moved away from Theosophical Society, because he mentions that he feels that people are not sincere enough to actually go through that uh, transformation that is required.
Yes.
We are thinking, like the Theosophists are thinking, we are one special group, we have got some special privileges. They feel they're satisfied once they are inside the society. No, that's why he moved away, because he felt that type of thinking was there then. Now I don't think it's like that. Now I think we are learning from all sources. That's what I think. That times Theosophical Society might have been like that.
We are supposed to be aware each and every moment, what we are thinking, what we are doing, what we are giving to society. Only then.
Yeah. Okay, so if Rajamji, you didn't say anything.
I'm just listening.
Say something, no?
I would like to go through the book also,
Acha, okay.
if possible.
All right. So I will share it with you then next year, next week, maybe you can share. Anybody else? Jayashri ji, I think you're new to our society. So how did you find the program?
Very good. And you simply explained very nicely.
I think Jitendra Sampatji is available. Yeah, Sampatji, do you like to say something? This is an interesting book. It is available in Amazon.
No, I just came a bit
Yes.
late. So, what was the subject? I can't comment until I know a little bit
No,
about
it is
this.
Aryal Sanat.
What was the discussion?
Aryal Sanat, Aryal Sanat, he wrote a book that is an inner life of Krishnamurti. He made a lot of research in which his transformation, how he made from, means Ariel mentioned it vividly, how he transformed from this member of Theosophical Society, Theosophies. Then he started his own organization. No, there is something Bimalji mentioned that that Aryal mentioned in that book, an inner life of Krishnamurti, where he particularly mentioned that he, on the level of intuition, how he controlled all these things, which astral, emotion, then all these lower mental. He referred, means in that book, how Krishnamurti at an intuitive plane, how he was masters or something like that, masters, the great Maitreyas, and all this he mentioned. Vimalji also mentioned in a PowerPoint presentation. One is to go through the details of the book. Probably he quoted,
And I
I
haven't
think,
read that book. Yeah.
yes, it is available in Amazon. I purchased it, but I left it at Bhubaneswar, not available with me. Actually,
Not audible.
It's not audible. I think his
Pradeep
internet
ji in
is-
Bhowali.
Yeah, he's in Bhowali.
So
Aryal Sanat has written a more recent book. This book, which I'm doing a book study of, is published in 1999. He has written a book which is published in 2023. The name of that book is it's called Krishnamurti and the Wisdom Explosion, Dawn of a New Era. Dawn of a New Era. The book is expensive, so I don't know whether I'll be able to afford to buy it. I think it's not published in India. It's a outside publication. So maybe when it comes to India, I'll read it. But yeah. So this kind of books are very interesting, where there is this Krishnamurti, the life of Krishnamurti is studied in so many different angles. This analysis that he does is very interesting. I think, Sushma ji, we can end the session.
okay.
Because
Okay.
it was, I
Thank you,
think,
Vimalji.
complex and people finding it difficult too. Yeah.
Thank you, Vimalji. And
Thank
thank you
you
all the
very much.
participants. Asato ma sadgamay, tamso ma jyotirgamay, mrityo ma amritam gamay. From the unreal lead us to the real, from darkness lead us to light, from death lead us to immortality. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sushma ji. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
All the time I will pay my